Kendra stared out of the car window as the city skyline of Johannesburg rose in the distance. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the buildings. Everything felt strange and new. She clutched her backpack on her lap, her fingers nervously drumming on it. In the front seat, her mother, Rebecca, was driving with tense focus, while her older brother, Brandon, sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed and silent. Welcome to Afro Tales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our amazing stories. They had been driving for hours, leaving behind yet another town in their search for safety. Johannesburg was supposed to be a fresh start, a big city where they could blend in and disappear. But Kendra couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her stomach. She glanced at her mother's eyes in the rearview mirror. They looked distant and worried, the same way they had since the day her father was killed. Rebecca turned the car onto a quieter residential street lined with jacaranda trees. Purple blossoms scattered on the sidewalks. "This is it," she said softly, pulling up in front of a small two-story house. The house was modest, with pale yellow walls and a dark green roof. It looked old but well kept. A flowering bougainvillea climbed up one side of the porch. Brandon exhaled a long breath. "Home sweet home," he muttered, though his tone was flat and without enthusiasm. Kendra stepped out of the car and stretched her stiff legs. The air was warm, but with a hint of an evening chill. She looked at the houses around them. Neighbors were out tending gardens or walking dogs. An ordinary suburban scene that felt at odds with the turmoil in her own life. They carried a few boxes and suitcases inside. The interior of the house was simple: cream-colored walls, wooden floors, and a cozy living room that opened into a small kitchen. It was smaller than their old home, but at least they had found a place to rent on short notice. "I know it's not big, but we'll make do," Rebecca said as she set a box down on the coffee table. She tried to smile at her children. "It's temporary, just for now. Until it's safe." Brandon finished the sentence for her, his voice tinged with bitterness. "If it ever will be." Rebecca's forced smile faltered. She brushed a strand of brown hair from her face and sighed. "Let's unpack later. We should eat something. I'll order pizza, okay? There's a place nearby that delivers." Kendra nodded and managed a small smile. Pizza sounds good. In truth, she wasn't very hungry. There was a tight knot of anxiety in her chest that food wouldn't loosen. Tomorrow she would start at a new high school. Again. She had lost count of how many schools she'd attended in the past 2 years. It had been 2 years since her father's death, and in that time they had moved 3 times. Johannesburg was their 4th relocation. Each move came with the hope that this time they would be free from the shadows of the past. As her mother stepped out to the porch to call in the order, still wary of using their personal cell phone for too long, even for something as simple as ordering dinner, Kendra wandered down the hallway. She found the bedroom that would be hers. Her suitcase lay on the bed. Gently, she unzipped it and pulled out a framed photo wrapped in a sweater. It was a picture of her with her dad and mom from 3 years ago, all of them laughing at a beach. Her father, Michael, had his arms around them. That had been one of the last truly happy days before everything went wrong. A lump formed in her throat as she remembered that night. She was only 14 then, doing homework in her room, when she heard raised voices from the living room, her parents arguing, which was rare. She had crept out to the top of the stairs to listen. Her father was upset, saying something about the evidence and "they won't let me walk away with it." Her mother was pleading with him to be careful, to think of the children. Then her father had looked up and seen Kendra on the stairs. His face softened for a moment. He had forced a smile and told her everything was fine, just a work problem. He had come up to hug her and said, "Go back to bed, Ken. It's late." That was the last time she saw him alive. The next day he was gone. The police said it was a car accident. a collision on a quiet road outside the city. But even at 14, Kendra had known something was wrong. The details didn't add up, and the hollow look in her mother's eyes when she identified his body told her that it was no accident. Kendra gently traced a finger over the photo frame. "I miss you, Dad," she whispered. "I promise I'll find out what really happened." She swallowed hard and blinked away tears. Setting the photo on the nightstand, she resolved to be strong. A knock on her door made her jump. She quickly wiped her eyes. "Come in." Brandon opened the door halfway and poked his head in. With his short dark hair and tall frame, he looked so much like their father that it sometimes hurt to look at him. Right now, though, his expression was gentle. "Hey, how are you holding up?" Kendra mustered another smile. "I'm okay. Just a lot to take in." He stepped inside and sat on the edge of her bed. "Yeah, new city, new school, it's rough, I get it." She looked down at her hands. "I'm tired of it. I just want to stay in one place, make real friends, not always be looking over my shoulder." Her voice trembled slightly despite her efforts to steady it. Brandon sighed and put an arm around her shoulders. "Me too, Ken. But we have to do what's necessary to stay safe. Until those guys are behind bars, or whatever Mom is planning with that evidence, we have to keep moving." "Do you think Mom will ever actually use it? That file Dad gave her?" she asked quietly, voicing the question that had long been on her mind. Brandon's jaw tightened. "I don't know. She's scared, and I don't blame her. Those men, they have a lot of power. We've seen what they can do." Kendra shivered. She remembered the phone calls late at night, the ones her mother would answer in hushed tones, thinking the children were asleep. Threatening calls. "Tell us where it is, or you're next," one had said. That was when they first left their hometown and went into hiding. One hand balled into a fist. "They killed Dad because of that information. If we just keep running forever, it's like letting them win. Dad wouldn't have wanted that." Brandon looked at her with concern. "Kendra, don't even think about doing anything risky. Promise me. Let Mom handle it." She stared at her brother. He was 6 years older, and since Dad's death, he often acted more like a protective father than a sibling. "I'm not going to do anything," she lied. "I just hate this, that's all." Brandon studied her face, then nodded slowly. "I hate it too." He ruffled her hair lightly, trying to cheer her. "Anyway, at least the pizza's on its way. I'm starving." Kendra managed a small laugh. "You're always starving." "Growing boy," he chuckled, rubbing his stomach in an exaggerated way as he stood up. She rolled her eyes. "You're 22, Brandon. Not exactly growing taller." He smirked. "Fine, just a boyish appetite. Come on, let's set the table or something." As they walked back to the living room, they found their mother already placing paper plates and napkins on the coffee table, having decided that the couch would serve as their dining spot tonight amidst the half-unpacked boxes. Rebecca gave them both a tired smile. "The pizza should be here any minute. I got one pepperoni and one vegetarian since I wasn't sure what we'd all want." "Thanks, Mom," Kendra said, sitting down on the couch. Brandon plopped down beside her. Rebecca sat down too, smoothing her skirt. She glanced at the window as if checking for the delivery, but Kendra suspected her mother was actually checking for anyone suspicious outside. "Tomorrow's the big day," her mother said after a moment. Kendra knew she meant the first day of school. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I'll be all right, Mom. It's not the first time I've been the new girl." Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. "I know. You always handle it so well. I'm sorry you have to keep starting over." Guilt flickered in Rebecca's eyes. "It's not your fault," Kendra said quickly. She didn't want her mother blaming herself for the situation. The blame lay solely with the men who had turned their lives upside down. Brandon nodded in agreement. "We're doing what we have to. At least this time. Maybe we can stick around a little longer." Rebecca bit her lip. "Maybe," she said, but her tone was non-committal. "If everything stays quiet, They all knew what that meant, if the bad people didn't find them, if no one tracked them down because of the file. A heavy silence settled in the room for a moment. It was broken by the doorbell. The sudden sound made Rebecca flinch before she forced herself to relax. "That'll be the pizza." Brandon stood. "I'll get it." He headed to the door while Rebecca discreetly reached under a couch cushion. Kendra knew she kept a small handgun there for protection. Kendra's heart pounded for a second as the door opened, but she exhaled in relief when she heard a cheerful young man's voice. "Good evening, ma'am. Your pizza delivery." A minute later, Brandon returned with 2 pizza boxes, the delicious smell filling the room. "All right, dinner is served." They ate quietly at first, all of them hungrier than they realized. The pizza eased some tension, providing a sense of normalcy. Kendra found herself eating 2 slices of pepperoni without even noticing. After dinner, with boxes discarded and dusk settling outside, Rebecca checked all the doors and windows to make sure they were locked. "Try to get some rest, both of you," she said. "Kendra, I'll drive you to school tomorrow, all right? It's on my way to where I need to go." Kendra wondered if that was true or if her mother just wanted an excuse to ensure she got to school safely. "Sure, Mom, thanks." Brandon stretched. "I think I'll turn in. Long day." He hesitated. "Actually, I might go for a short walk first, get a sense of the neighborhood. Just around the block." Rebecca immediately looked concerned. "Brandon, I won't go far," he assured. "Promise. I just want to see if there's a convenience store close by, maybe pick up some milk for tomorrow morning. We forgot groceries in all the craziness." Their mother relaxed slightly and nodded. "All right, but be quick and stay alert." "Always," he said with a crooked grin. He grabbed his jacket and headed out. Kendra decided to shower and head to bed. She wanted to be rested for school, even if anxiety might keep her awake. In the bathroom, under the warm spray of the shower, she tried to calm her mind. She rehearsed introductions in her head. "Hi, I'm Kendra. Yes, I'm new. We moved here for my mom's job." That was the usual excuse. It was easier than explaining the truth. After drying off and changing into pajamas, she heard her mother quietly talking in the living room. Kendra paused by the slightly ajar door of her room to listen. "I know, I hate lying to them," her mother was saying in a low voice. "She must be on a phone call. But it's for their safety. No, I haven't contacted the police here yet. I don't know who to trust." A pause. "I still have it, of course I still have it hidden away, but if I try to use it, they might find us again. I can't risk the kids, not after what happened to Michael." Kendra's heart skipped. She was sure her mother was talking about the file, the secret evidence her father had gathered, the thing that made them a target. Rebecca must be speaking to someone she trusted, maybe an old friend or colleague of her dad's. Kendra knew she shouldn't eavesdrop, but she couldn't help it. "I thought Johannesburg might be safer," her mother continued in a strained whisper. "It's a big city, easier to blend in, but I'm still looking over my shoulder. I don't think they know we're here, at least not yet." Another pause. I'll be careful. "Thank you, Simon. Yes, I'll call if there's any sign of trouble." Kendra quickly slipped into her room and shut the door quietly as her mother ended the call. She climbed into bed, her mind racing, so her mother did have someone to talk to, someone named Simon, possibly one of her father's old friends, but even he apparently advised caution. "If I try to use it, they might find us again," her mother had said. Kendra stared at the ceiling. Part of her understood it was dangerous, but part of her was frustrated. How long could they live like this? Would they ever truly be free if they didn't bring those men to justice? She thought of her father's warm smile in that photo. He had believed in doing the right thing, enough to risk his life for it. Lost in these thoughts, it took a long time for her to fall asleep. When she did, her sleep was restless and filled with hazy nightmares of being chased by faceless figures in dark alleys. Morning came all too soon. The sound of her alarm on her phone startled her awake at 6:30 a.m. Kendra groggily sat up, rubbing her eyes. For a moment, in that foggy state between sleep and waking, she didn't remember where she was. The unfamiliar pale blue walls of her new bedroom confused her. Then it all came back. The move, the new house, Johannesburg, and the first day at a new school. She got dressed in the school uniform they had picked up yesterday from the administrative office. It consisted of a white blouse, a charcoal gray skirt, and a blazer with the school's emblem on the breast pocket. It wasn't too bad as far as uniforms went. She brushed her long brown hair and tied it into a neat ponytail, figuring it looked tidy enough. Over breakfast, which was just cereal and the milk Brandon had thankfully bought, the family was quiet. Brandon had a bruise on his cheek that he hadn't had the night before. "What happened?" Kendra asked, concerned, pointing at his face. Brandon touched the bruise absently. "Ran into a door," he said with a lopsided grin that didn't meet his eyes. Their mother frowned. "Brandon," he held up a hand. "It's fine. Just some guy being a jerk because I'm new around there. Tried to start something, but I walked away." "Someone attacked you?" Kendra's worry spiked. "It was nothing," he insisted. "Some punk with more muscles than brains. I didn't engage. Just came home." Rebecca reached out and gently turned her son's face to examine the bruise. "We have to be careful," she said, a tremor in her voice. "The last thing we need is attention or trouble with locals." Brandon pulled back, guilt on his face. "I know, Mom. Sorry," she sighed. "Just, please be cautious." "I will," he said softly. Kendra exchanged a glance with her brother, but she didn't push it further. She could tell he didn't want to discuss it, but it made her uneasy. Were they already attracting trouble? Soon it was time to leave. They all piled into the car so Rebecca could drop Kendra at school on her way to wherever she went during the day. Kendra knew her mom had some kind of remote job now, working on a laptop, but she often also went out for errands that might involve checking in with contacts or doing precautionary tasks. As they neared Rosewood High School, Kendra felt her palms grow sweaty. No matter how many times she'd done this, being the new student always gave her butterflies. What if no one liked her? What if the teachers were mean? What if she said something wrong and people started asking questions about her past? The school building came into view, a red brick structure with large windows and a grassy front lawn where students were milling about. It looked fairly ordinary and welcoming, with some shade trees and benches outside. Students in matching uniforms were chatting, laughing, heading inside. Rebecca pulled up to the curb. "Do you want me to walk you in?" she asked gently. "Mom, no," Kendra said quickly, her cheeks flushing at the thought. "I'll be fine." Her mother nodded, though reluctance showed in her eyes. "All right. Have a good day, sweetheart. Be careful and call me if you need anything. I'll pick you up right here after school, okay?" "Okay." Kendra took a deep breath. She realized her hands were twisting the strap of her backpack nervously and made herself stop. "Love you, Mom. Bye." She glanced at Brandon. "See you later." "Knock 'em dead, kiddo," Brandon said with an encouraging wink, though the bruise on his face made Kendra frown again. She got out of the car and waved as her mom drove off. Turning towards the school, she joined the stream of students making their way to the entrance. The hum of chattering voices filled the air. She kept her head down and tried to blend in. Inside, the corridors were bright and busy. Lockers lined the walls, many already decorated with stickers and photos. She had been given her locker number and class schedule yesterday. Now she just had to find them. As she was looking at the room numbers, a friendly voice piped up beside her. "Hi, you look a little lost. Need some help?" Kendra turned to see a girl about her age, with curly blonde hair and warm hazel eyes. She wore the same uniform, with a few colorful bracelets peeking out from under her blazer sleeve. She had a kind smile. "Yeah, I'm new," Kendra said, grateful that someone had noticed kindly rather than staring or ignoring her. "I'm looking for locker 129 in my homeroom, which should be room 2B. The girl's face brightened. "Oh, I'm in 2B as well. Locker 129. Those are just around the corner, I'll show you. She beckoned and they walked together down the hall. I'm Emily, by the way. Kendra, she responded with a small smile. Nice to meet you, Kendra. We don't get new students that often this time of year, usually at the beginning of term. Did you just move here? Yeah, moved here a few weeks ago. My mom's work. The lie came out smoothly as she'd practiced. Emily nodded sympathetically. That must be tough switching schools in the middle of the year, but don't worry. People here are mostly nice. Here we are. Emily gestured at a locker. The numbers above it read 129. I think that one's yours. Thanks so much, Emily. You didn't have to walk me, but I appreciate it. No problem. Emily leaned on the neighboring locker. So where'd you move from? A smaller town north of here, you wouldn't know it. Kendra dodged specifics. She spun the combination lock that had been given to her. It clicked open. Inside, the locker was empty except for a few hooks. She started transferring a couple of notebooks from her backpack into it. Emily nodded. Gotcha. Hey, if you need someone to sit with at lunch, you can join me and my friends. Relief washed through Kendra. Maybe making friends here wouldn't be so hard after all. That would be great. Thank you. Sure. After homeroom, I can meet you and show you the cafeteria. Speaking of which, we should get to class. Emily glanced at her phone clock. 2B is upstairs. They headed up a flight of stairs and found room 2B, filing in with other students. The homeroom teacher, a tall man with glasses, greeted Kendra with a welcoming smile once Emily pointed her out as new. He introduced himself as Mr. Andrews and quickly assigned her a seat near the middle. As class began, Mr. Andrews had Kendra stand up and briefly introduce herself to the class. Used to this routine, she kept it short. Hi, I'm Kendra Blake. I moved here from out of town. Nice to meet you. She heard a few polite murmurs of welcome and one or two curious whispers. When she sat down, she noticed a few students looking at her, some with friendly interest, others more sizing her up. Being a new face was always like being a small fish in a bowl for a while. One boy sitting diagonally behind her caught her eye momentarily. He had messy brown hair and bright blue eyes, and had given her an encouraging nod when she spoke. She flushed and looked away, focusing on Mr. Andrews, who was now going over morning announcements. Homeroom passed uneventfully. The rest of the morning she attended 2 classes, English and math. Emily was in her English class and sat next to her, which helped ease Kendra's nerves. Math was in a different section. She didn't know anyone there, but it went fine despite the teacher putting her on the spot to answer a question about algebra. She answered correctly, earning an approving nod from the teacher and a few whispers from classmates. By lunchtime, the initial novelty of the new student had worn off a bit, and Kendra felt more relaxed. She went to her locker to grab her lunch. Her mom had packed a simple sandwich and an apple for her. As she closed the locker door, she was startled to find a tall figure right behind it. "Oh!" she exclaimed softly, stepping back. It was the boy with the messy brown hair and blue eyes who she'd noticed in homeroom. He held up his hands apologetically. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. I was just heading to my locker. You're Kendra, right?" "Yeah," she replied, her heart still racing from the surprise. "And you are?" "Jason." He introduced himself with a friendly smile. "Jason Coleman. We're in homeroom together and history after lunch, I think." "Oh, right." She recalled her schedule. History was after lunch, and she had noticed a Jason on the class list near her name when the teacher passed the roll sheet around to sign. "You settling in okay?" he asked as the two of them began walking toward the cafeteria. "I think so. It's a bit overwhelming, but people have been nice so far," she said, thinking of Emily, and now Jason being friendly. Jason nodded. "Rosewood's a pretty decent school, if you ignore the boring uniforms," he joked, tugging at his blazer. He then pointed casually across the hall towards a group of 3 girls walking ahead of them. "And if you don't get on the bad side of the self-appointed queen of the school over there." Kendra followed his gaze and saw a trio of girls, all impeccably groomed. The one in the center had long auburn hair that bounced as she walked, and she carried herself like she owned the place. As if on cue, the girl glanced back and noticed Jason. Her expression lit up and she whispered something to the friends beside her, then slowed her pace to let them catch up. "Jason, hi," the auburn-haired girl greeted brightly, turning slightly to block the corridor. Her eyes flickered to Kendra, taking her in from head to toe in a single sweep, then dismissing her just as quickly. "Who's your friend?" "Hey, Vanessa," Jason replied politely, though without much enthusiasm. "This is Kendra. She's new." Vanessa gave a tight smile. "Welcome to Rosewood, Kendra." Her tone was sugary sweet, but something about it felt off, as if the welcome was not entirely sincere. "I'm Vanessa. Jason and I have known each other since, primary school." "That's nice," Kendra said simply, not sure what else to say. She could sense Vanessa's eyes lingering on her, perhaps noticing that Jason had been talking with her. Jason cleared his throat. "We were just heading to lunch." "Great. You can sit with us," Vanessa declared, linking her arm through Jason's. "We have the best spot by the window. You'll love it." The invitation included Kendra in theory, but Vanessa's body language seemed more focused on claiming Jason. Before Kendra could respond, Emily appeared at her side. "Hey, Kendra, ready to grab lunch?" She noticed the little scene and gave Vanessa a polite nod. "Hi, Vanessa." Vanessa's smile faltered at Emily's arrival. "Emily," she said coolly. Then she returned her gaze to Jason. "Shall we?" Jason gently extricated his arm from Vanessa's. "Actually, I promised to show Kendra around at lunch." He looked at Kendra as he said this, giving her a quick wink that Vanessa couldn't see. "Maybe another time, Vanessa." Vanessa's eyes narrowed just a fraction, but she maintained her plastic smile. "Oh, sure, another time." Her tone had chilled by a few degrees. Vanessa and her two friends moved off, though not without the girl shooting a parting look at Kendra that was hard to decipher, somewhere between curiosity and annoyance. When they were out of earshot, Emily let out a low whistle. "Well, that was an interesting encounter." Jason rolled his eyes lightly. "Don't mind Vanessa. She's possessive." Emily snorted. "That's one word for it. She basically ruled the junior class last year. And now that we're seniors, she's trying to do the same, thinks she's queen of the school, and she's had her eye on Jason here since forever." "Emily," Jason groaned, clearly embarrassed by the frank commentary. "What?" "It's true," Emily said, nudging Kendra with a grin. "He's like the golden boy around here, captain of the soccer team and all. Vanessa's determined to be his girlfriend, even though he's not interested." Emily said this matter-of-factly. Kendra felt a small, surprising spark of jealousy at that statement and quickly shoved it aside, scolding herself internally. She just met Jason. No need to feel anything about his relationship status. Still, she noticed that he blushed a bit at Emily's description. "Emily, you know I hate when you make me sound like some trophy," Jason muttered. Emily laughed. Sorry. Anyway, let's go eat." They went into the cafeteria, got in line, and Kendra followed Emily to a table near the middle of the bustling room. "This is kind of our regular spot," Emily said. "Jason joins sometimes when he's not sitting with the soccer guys or being kidnapped by Vanessa." She said the last part with a smirk. Jason just shook his head in resignation and took a seat across from Kendra. Emily sat next to Kendra. "So," Emily said between bites of her sandwich, "what do your parents do, Kendra, if you don't mind me asking? You said your mom's work made you move?" Kendra paused, her own sandwich halfway to her mouth. She hated these questions even though they were perfectly normal. My mom works in consulting, like helping companies organize their offices and stuff. She moves around a lot for projects." It was a version of a half-truth they'd settled on. "And my dad, he passed away 2 years ago." "Oh, I'm so sorry." Emily said immediately, her eyes full of sympathy. I shouldn't have pried. It's okay, Kendra said softly. You didn't know. Jason looked at her with gentle eyes. That's rough. My dad, travels a lot for business, but he's still around. I can't imagine. For a moment, the table was quiet, aside from the surrounding chatter of the cafeteria. Kendra picked at the crust of her sandwich. Even after 2 years, saying it out loud hurt. Emily seemed to sense the need for a subject change. So, what subjects do you like, Kendra? They steered into more light-hearted conversation. Kendra told them she enjoyed literature and biology, and that she was hopeless at history dates, but found the stories interesting. Jason joked about nearly failing history last year because he couldn't keep the timeline straight, which made her laugh. By the end of lunch, she felt like she had made 2 friends already, maybe even 3 if she counted Jason as a friend. It was more than she'd expected on her first day. Despite the underlying tension of her family's secret, she caught herself genuinely smiling and laughing a couple times. It felt good. The afternoon classes went by. History was indeed with Jason, and he sat next to her making a funny face when the teacher turned his back, causing her to stifle a giggle. She noticed Vanessa shooting daggers at her from across the room because of that. Clearly, Vanessa was not pleased that Jason was paying attention to the new girl. When the final bell rang at 3 p.m., Kendra returned to her locker to swap out books. She found a folded note slipped through the vent slats of the locker door. Frowning, she opened it. In neat handwriting, it said, "Stay away from Jason. He's mine. Consider this a warning." There was no signature, but it was obvious who it was from. Kendra felt a mix of anger and disbelief. She barely even knew Jason. Vanessa's jealousy was absurd. Crumpling the note, she tossed it in a nearby trash can. She decided it was best to ignore it for now. Getting into a feud with the queen bee on her first day was not part of her plan. She left the school building, the note still bothering her a little, but she pushed it aside as she saw her mom's car at the curb. The sight of the familiar car made her smile. After a day of pretending to be a normal student, she was eager to tell her mom about the day, at least the good parts, and return to their current safe haven. Kendra opened the passenger door and slid in. "Hey, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart. How was it?" Her mother gave her a warm but slightly strained smile. "It was actually pretty good. I made a friend. 2, maybe," Kendra said, thinking of Emily and Jason, although mentioning Jason might invite questions she wasn't ready to answer. "That's wonderful," Rebecca replied, sounding genuinely pleased and perhaps relieved. "See, I knew you'd do fine." As they drove off, Kendra noticed a black sedan parked across the street from the school. For a second, she thought the man in the driver's seat was staring at them, but then he pulled away and merged into traffic behind them. The car looked like any other car, and she told herself she was being paranoid. Johannesburg was full of black sedans or similar cars. Still, she kept an eye on the side mirror. "Everything okay?" her mother asked, glancing over at her. "Yeah," Kendra said, forcing herself to relax. "Just a lot on my mind." They chatted about mundane things on the drive, what the teachers were like, how the traffic in the city was worse than expected, what to have for dinner. The normalcy of the conversation was comforting. When they arrived home, Brandon's car was already in the driveway, indicating he was back from wherever he'd gone that day. The sun was dipping low, casting the street in golden evening light. Inside, they found Brandon at the kitchen counter making a sandwich, still in casual clothes. His bruise looked a bit worse than in the morning, a sickly purple on his cheekbone. "Hey, kiddo," he greeted Kendra with a grin. "How was day 1? "Hey, it was good. The school's nice. Made some friends. How about you? Everything okay?" She eyed his bruise pointedly. He waved it off. "All good. Just a quiet day of exploring. Found a gym that isn't too expensive. Might sign up to blow off steam." Rebecca frowned lightly as she set her purse down. "Just be careful, Brandon. We can't draw attention." Yeah, I know." He changed the subject, looking at Kendra. So, tell me about your friends. Kendra grabbed a glass of water and leaned against the counter. There's this girl, Emily, who's really nice. She showed me around. And a guy named Jason. He's pretty cool too. At the mention of a guy, Rebecca's ears perked up. Jason, he's just a classmate, Mom, Kendra said quickly to quell any ideas. He's showing me around a bit too, that's all. Brandon chuckled. Cool, our little Kendra already lining up dates. She shot him a withering look, though she felt her cheeks warm. It's not like that. He's just friendly. And possibly he had a crazed would-be girlfriend who was already threatening me, she thought but didn't say. Uh-huh, Brandon teased, but then backed off as their mom started rifling through the mail on the table with a troubled expression. What's wrong? Kendra asked. Rebecca held up an envelope. It was blank with no stamp or address. Someone had slipped it under their door or into the mailbox by hand. Wordlessly, Rebecca opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Her eyes widened as she read it. She sank into a chair. Brandon and Kendra hurried over. Mom, what is it? Brandon asked, worry lacing his voice. Rebecca handed him the paper, her hand trembling. Brandon read it aloud. We found you. Your husband's death will not be the last if you don't return what belongs to us. No more warnings. Kendra felt the blood drain from her face. She snatched the note to see for herself, heart pounding. The message was typed out, no handwriting, just those terrifying words. They know we're here, she whispered, voice quavering. Rebecca closed her eyes, composing herself. Maybe it's just a scare. They might not really know, but they could. Oh, God. She buried her face in her hands for a moment, taking a shuddering breath. Then she looked at her children, her face set with determination despite the fear. We need to be very careful, watchful. I'll have to think about what to do. Brandon cursed under his breath and began pacing. This is exactly what we were afraid of. How did they find us so fast? We've only been here a few weeks. Kendra thought of the black sedan she saw at school. Had it been following them? Was she already under surveillance? A chill went through her. Maybe they have people watching the schools or monitoring records. I used our real names at school, Mom. I had to for enrollment. Her voice cracked, guilt flooding her. It's not your fault, sweetie, her mother said firmly, standing up and putting her hands on Kendra's shoulders. You have to go to school. We can't avoid that. If they have access to certain databases or someone on the inside, they could have found out. Yes. Brandon slammed his fist on the counter, making both women jump. This is insane. We can't keep living like this. Maybe we should just go to the police or give them what they want. No, Rebecca said sharply. We are not giving them that file. It's the only thing keeping us alive. As long as we have it, they won't risk hurting us because they want it back. And if we give it up, your father died for nothing. The truth dies with him. Her eyes shone with tears she refused to let fall. Kendra felt a surge of emotion. She had never heard her mother speak so bluntly about the situation. It was clear how much the decision to hold on to the evidence weighed on her. An uneasy silence settled. Finally, Rebecca spoke again, more softly. We'll lay low. Maybe it's just a threat to scare us. But in case it's not, Brandon, I want you to install those new locks and the alarm system tonight. I'll call someone I trust and see if we can't arrange some kind of backup plan. Brandon nodded curtly. I'll do that now. I'll help, Kendra offered, eager to do something useful and feeling too agitated to just sit. No, you, her mother began, but then stopped herself. Okay, be careful with the tools. I think the hardware store kit is in the garage. Brandon already headed for the garage, and Kendra followed. In the garage, amid their still unpacked items, he found the box with the new deadbolt locks and a basic alarm unit they'd bought, but hadn't yet installed. As he started to work on the front door, unscrewing the old lock, he murmured to her, I'm sorry this is happening. Kendra held a flashlight for him even though there was still daylight. "It's not your fault either, Brandon." He hesitated, then said, "Maybe I shouldn't have gone out last night. What if someone recognized me from before? Or I picked up a tail?" She frowned. "Recognized you? But we don't know anyone here. Unless those thugs," he shrugged. "Who knows how these guys operate? They might have had someone checking new arrivals or something. I did feel like I was being watched on the way home last night, but when I looked, no one was there." She bit her lip. Should she mention the car at school? It could be nothing, but after this threat, her paranoia felt justified. "I saw a car near school that gave me a weird vibe, a black sedan. It might have just been nothing, but now—" Brandon paused his work and met her eyes. "We can't rule anything out. We have to be extra alert." Once the new locks were installed on the front and back door and the simple alarm, really just a loud siren triggered by door sensors, was set up, they tested it to make sure it worked. It wasn't high-end security, but it was something. Rebecca insisted that they all sleep in the same hallway tonight, with Kendra in her room, Rebecca in the other downstairs bedroom, and Brandon on the couch in the living room near the front door, just in case. She also brought out her handgun and kept it within reach. The tension was high, but they tried to act normal for each other's sake. They ate a light dinner of leftovers and salad, talking only a little. No one mentioned the note explicitly, as if by not speaking of it they could reduce its power to scare them. By 10 p.m. the house was quiet. Rebecca had double-checked everything and finally went to bed, urging Kendra to do the same. Brandon was lying on the couch with a baseball bat propped next to him, joking weakly that it was like a camping trip in the living room. Despite the fear gnawing at her, eventually exhaustion claimed Kendra. She fell asleep in her clothes while reading a textbook, the stresses of the day having drained her. It was around 2 a.m. when a faint noise woke her, a metallic clink like a lock being tampered with. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. The house was dark and silent. She sat up, heart thudding in her chest, ears straining. There, another soft, scratchy sound at the front door. Fear jolted through her. Someone was at the door trying to get in. Before she could move, a blaring siren split the air. The alarm. It had sensed the door opening. The sound was deafening in the quiet night. She heard a muffled curse from the living room, Brandon. Then a shout, "Hey, who's there?" And the heavy sound of the front door slamming open against the wall as if kicked. Kendra leapt from her bed, adrenaline surging. She yanked open her bedroom door and peeked down the hallway. The security alarm's red light flashed. She saw the front door was indeed ajar. Brandon was up, grabbing his bat and charging towards the door. Rebecca stumbled out of her own room, clutching the handgun with shaking hands. "Brandon, wait!" But Brandon was already at the door. The siren was so loud it was hard to hear anything else. Kendra scrambled to the alarm unit on the wall and quickly punched in the code to silence it. In the sudden relative quiet, her ears rang. She could now hear heavy breathing and Brandon's voice shouting into the darkness outside. "You better run. I'm calling the police." Kendra ran to her mother's side. Rebecca had the phone in one hand, already dialing emergency services. Brandon backed into the house, slamming the door shut and locking it. "They're gone, whoever it was. I think I scared them off." His voice was breathless, the bat still in a white-knuckled grip. Rebecca spoke urgently into the phone, giving their address and explaining that someone had broken in. After hanging up, she turned to them. "Police are on their way." Kendra's entire body was trembling. This was real. Someone had actually tried to break in, likely to make good on that threat. If they hadn't installed the alarm, she didn't want to think about what might have happened. Brandon pointed to the door. "The new lock held mostly, but they tried to pry it. I think they forced it enough to set off the alarm, then took off when it went off." Rebecca held her gun tightly, finger off the trigger but ready. "You didn't see anyone?" He shook his head. "Just a dark figure running off. Couldn't tell who or how many. They had a car. I heard a door slam and tires screeching." The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, a man and a woman, swept the area with flashlights and took a report. There wasn't much to go on. No one caught a clear look at the intruder. The front door lock had scratches and dents, evidence of forced entry, which they photographed. One officer, Sergeant Adams, was a stout man with a reassuring voice. It looks like whoever it was ran off when they couldn't get in quickly. The alarm likely scared them away. Do you have any idea who might want to target you, ma'am? Rebecca shook her head, sticking to their cover story. No, we're new in the city. I can't imagine who would do this. Maybe just a burglar looking for easy houses? The female officer, Constable Brown, pursed her lips. Possibly. Though this area isn't known for break-ins. New folks, you said. Sometimes criminals watch moving trucks to see if you have valuables before you fully settle. We didn't have a moving truck, just our car, Brandon said. The officers exchanged a glance. Sergeant Adams cleared his throat. Well, we'll file a report. Might have a patrol swing by a bit more often for a while. I suggest maybe upgrading to a more robust security system if you're going to be staying, and keep doors and windows locked. Of course, Rebecca said. Thank you, officers. After they left, the house felt simultaneously safer with police attention, and more vulnerable, since the threat was now undeniably real. They tried to rest the remainder of the night, but it was mostly spent lying awake. Kendra eventually fell into a light sleep as dawn approached, her thoughts a jumble of fear and defiance. One thing was clear as the sun rose on the next day. Their enemies had found them. And as she prepared for her second day of school, running away again would not solve anything. They needed a plan. And for that, Kendra knew she needed to understand exactly what had gotten her father killed. Despite the danger and her mother's warnings, she was more determined than ever to uncover the truth, even if it meant putting herself in harm's way.